role of Facebook and Twitter in India, whether they are intermediaries, whether they are publishers, and there has been this constant tussle between the government and these social media platforms. Now, the matter, of course, is predicted had landed in court, and it seems like the court is in agreement with the government on the extent of accountability that these social media platforms like Twitter and Facebook should face in India. So to help us understand the details of the issue, which is of course a very legal, technical issue, we have with us Bhadra Sinha, who, as you know, tracks legal issues, the courts for ThePrint. So do start sending in your questions for her in this episode of Government Matters. Bhadra, so yesterday there were, now where this is stemming from, of course, is that yesterday there were two separate hearings in courts, one to do with Facebook, one to do with Twitter. So just if you can tell us a little bit about that first.
Okay, so Ruhi, the Supreme Court hearing was related to the summons issued to Facebook and its head in India, Ajit Mohan, by Delhi Assembly's Peace and Harmony Committee, which was constituted to, in a way, inquire into the February 2020 Northeast Delhi riots. And Facebook had actually raised a twin-fold challenge to the summons, saying that technically the Delhi Assembly cannot issue such kind of notices, considering that the law and order issues are not within its domain. And the second challenge or question, which is a very pertinent question raised, was that as an intermediary, as a platform which is hosting a third-party content, Facebook is not liable for whatever is uploaded on their site. Now this was the Supreme Court matter, and in this matter the Supreme Court has actually delivered a very lengthy judgment in which it has rejected both the submissions of Facebook. With regard to the Delhi Assembly's jurisdiction, it has said it does have and it is valid. That's a different, I think, context altogether. We will not get into that. But the second issue with regard to Facebook's accountability, with regard to that, the Supreme Court has said that the kind of vast powers, the kind of influence it wields on the society today, Facebook needs to be a little bit more accountable. Now, this is the Supreme Court judgment. Right. Simultaneously, there was a hearing going on in the Delhi High Court where an individual has filed a petition seeking to enforce the new IT rules notified by the Government of India, by which the social media platforms or intermediaries need to appoint a permanent grievance officer in India. And the role of the grievance officer is quite elaborate. It is given out in the IT rules that under which, the grievance officer or the nodal officer requires to address the complaints submitted to it by people, by the users. Besides that, the grievance officer is required to submit monthly data on the action taken report over such complaints. Now, in that hearing, interestingly, the judge made one thing very clear, that if Twitter has to do business in India, it has to abide by the Indian rules. There is no way that it can excuse itself, and the bench went to the extent of saying that if the Government of India wants, it is at liberty to take action against Twitter. So these are the two hearings, important developments that took place yesterday in two different courts regarding the role or the accountability of social media intermediaries.
Right. Now, Bhadra, if we were to rewind a little bit and to understand where this entire controversy is stemming from, what has happened, what are the new IT rules, and why is it that Twitter and Facebook are resisting them?
See, the new IT rules were actually brought in by the Government of India in February this year. And as I said, as per the IT rules, the intermediaries are required to follow certain guidelines, by which the main important one is the appointment of grievance officer. Now, they were supposed to comply with them by May 25th. Now, interestingly, the law actually provides a safe harbor defense to intermediaries in our country, which actually means that if any rumor is posted on these platforms, or if any probably a violent video is posted on these platforms, and if somebody wants to file a case or a complaint vis-a-vis such kind of content, then these intermediaries can raise this defense in the court that being a platform or being an intermediary, we are not responsible for this content.
Right.
So this provision or this protection in a way was given to these intermediaries. But subsequent to these rules being notified, the government of India says that if you do not follow our rules, this safe harbor defense goes. You cannot take this defense in the court and you have to follow criminal prosecution as per the law. But it seems that there is a lot of resistance, which is being actually, projected by Twitter, by Facebook. But probably the reason is that to have a grievance officer, a permanent grievance officer in India, you need to have a permanent address over here. And once you have a permanent address over here, then you are subject to all the local laws of the country.
Right.
So I think this is something which the companies are trying to right now resist. Or avoid. But let us see, yesterday in the Delhi High Court, Twitter has given an undertaking to the effect that they will appoint a permanent grievance officer, but then that is subject to a mechanism being developed in India to set up a permanent office over here. But these are all under deliberations right now. There was no, commitment as such given. So the court has given it time, and by 23rd of July they have to file an affidavit. So let's see what stand they take. Yeah.
So Bhadra, this entire controversy around whether they're an intermediary or whether they're a publisher, what difference does it make legally? How does it change the legal protection they enjoy?
See, now this actually issue arose in the Facebook case decided by the Supreme Court yesterday. Now Supreme Court has noted this interesting stand taken by the Facebook, and how Facebook has divided its role in a way, because in America Facebook claims to be a publisher, and in India it claims to be an intermediary, a platform. Now interestingly, the reason why it claims to be a publisher in America is because in America freedom of speech, there is an absolute freedom for the media over there, which is not really there in India. Freedom of media has been defined in India through various Supreme Court judgments. Now being a publisher in America, Facebook is in a way protected, because it says that I have the right to publish, I have the right to edit a content, and the reason why they have taken this stand over there is because then they get protected as a publisher, protected from any sort of prosecution. But since in India it is not a constitutional right. The freedom of media is not really a constitutional right. It is just defined by the court. That is why it has taken a stand that no, we are just an intermediary. We don't want to be responsible for any content that is being uploaded. So these are the two different stands which they have taken.
Right.
Just probably going by the laws that are existing in each country, they change their stands, which I think the Supreme Court has really, come down heavily on. They say that as a company, it should take one stand. It can either be a platform or it can be a publisher. It cannot be two different entities in different countries in the context of the different laws.
Right.
So that is the.
So Bhadra, in India, if, as I said, what is the difference between the legal status of a publisher and that of an intermediary? How does it differ? How would it be different for Facebook?
No, so the reason is because over here, since Facebook is projecting itself to be a platform, it is not taking any responsibility for any content which is getting uploaded or hosted, for any written content or for any video.
So it's a third party.
It becomes a third party. It says that I'm just an observer. I have no role to play in it. I am not part of what is being uploaded on my platform. So I cannot be held responsible. So I should be given protection from any sort of prosecution. And that is one of the reasons why they also objected to the summons issued by the Delhi Assembly, saying that I'm simply a hosting platform. What have I got to do with what A is writing or B is writing? So they just want to keep their hands off everything while carrying out business over here. So that is what the court says, that if you may be a business entity, but you need to take some sort of responsibility, especially in a democratic setup over here. So you cannot just shut your eyes to what is happening on your platform.
Right.
Because after all, at the end of the day, it's Facebook which actually works with algorithms, with certain human interventions, and the court has gone to the extent of saying that these algorithms actually can influence the users. So, that is the thing. So it is trying to take a very safe stand in India by calling itself an intermediary, saying that I have no responsibility.
Right. All right. Okay, this is the question from Anbu. Often it looks like the foreign media companies do not respect our law. Why is it so? Is our judiciary not credible?
No, it's not about judiciary being credible. The problem, I think, as I said, is that these companies do not have permanent addresses in India. And the reason is because they want to really not escape, probably evade the taxation regime of our country, or probably even the legal regime of our country. Another reason could be because we all know that if a prosecution begins over here, then it can take years and years, and it can actually also lead to some sort of harassment as well. So that could be one of the reasons why they are a little bit skeptical about having,
Okay. This question is from Tarush. Do we have something like the US Section 230 in India?
US Section 230 of what? I am not too sure about that.
Neither am I. All right, so we'll get back on that.
Yeah, we'll get back on
Aditya Gogate, what do you think about Twitter's arbitrary nature of editing content and accounts, but then taking safe harbor provisions as an intermediary?
See, that is under debate actually, because Twitter says that it has its own internal rules, guidelines by which they decide, which handle should be suddenly blocked or which should not be blocked. So that is another area of controversy and debate which is right now going on, because it has actually blocked, the handle of several people, and some of them have gone to the court as well. So they have their own internal rules, but they are not willing to comply with the government rules. Right. And they also say that since we are a private company, we should not be, we are not amenable to any Indian court's jurisdiction as well. So these are the kind of different stands, Twitter has really been taking before different platforms. On one hand, they say we are trying to promote free speech and expression. On the other hand, they say that we are not there to further free speech and expression for the people of this country. So there is no clarity on their stand. And I think it's high time that they should, because after all, these platforms are becoming very important and crucial, in our day-to-day lives. A lot of discussions happen, a lot of debates happen on these platforms, and I think many of these platforms are actually being used to influence trends and narratives.
Right.
So
absolutely.
Yeah.
Right, including politics to a very significant extent.
Yeah.
Right. So Bhadra, when we talk about cases in court to do with Twitter and Facebook, can you just tell us what some of the main cases pending in court are?
So right now, Ruhi, the Facebook case was decided yesterday, and that's a very big judgment that has come. Although it doesn't really talk about Facebook's compliance with regard to the new IT rules, but the detailed discussion on its role as an intermediary and a platform in the judgment, I think, will set some sort of a precedence, because it might kind of influence the lower courts or the other high courts to look into the role of these intermediaries. The second case, of course, is pending before the Delhi High Court, where an individual has filed a petition asking the court to direct Twitter to comply with the IT rules. There is another matter which is pending in the Karnataka High Court, where Twitter has challenged summons issued by the Ghaziabad police that has registered an FIR recently under the IT Act after a video went viral on Twitter, that showed some people beating up an aged Muslim man and forcing him to, speak Jai Shri Ram. So in that, the Twitter head of India was issued summons. So he has challenged those summons in Karnataka High Court, which the matter is still pending over there. Over there, Twitter has taken this very stand only, that we are an intermediary. I don't know who hosts what on my platform. I can't be held responsible for my content. So these two matters right now are the most crucial ones that are pending in the court, and whatever decisions come will definitely
set a precedent.
lay down some sort of procedure or guidelines for these parties.
All right. Okay, Karan Saxena, how are other countries dealing with this issue?
So, that is very interesting, because the debate, the entire debate around their role also stems from the fact that it appears that in different countries,
their status is different.
It's different. Plus, Twitter, it seems, kind of follows laws in other countries. For example, in Singapore, I believe they comply with whatever directions are given to them by the government of India. If you recollect, Mr. Arvind Kejriwal had tweeted about coronavirus coming from Singapore, and some sort of variant coming from Singapore, and he had tweeted it, but Twitter immediately blocked or issued some sort of a statement, and it was done at the behest of the government over there. And as far as the role of Facebook is concerned, this has been noted in the Supreme Court judgment yesterday that Facebook's role has really come under scrutiny. There are different countries, for example, Sri Lanka, Australia, who have started a survey on how Facebook is actually influencing or creating unrest in their countries in certain areas, because it seems that in Myanmar, Facebook apparently was held responsible for inciting some riots over there. Similarly, in Sri Lanka. Similarly, the Supreme Court notes that Facebook also influenced the outcome of American president elections in 2016 as well as the Brexit referendum. So Facebook is under scanner in different parts of the country.
Right.
So I think the news is really tightening around Facebook, because the governments across the world have realized that it is a very powerful beast. Powerful beast. That's right.
Okay, I'll take this last question. It's not really technically a legal question. It's, I think, more of an existential question, Bhadra, as it were. Varun Sharma, how does Twitter explain blocking President Trump's account when it calls itself apolitical?
So, this is exactly the debate which is still on in India. I can just give you an example of a senior advocate's Twitter handle being blocked, and he has dragged Twitter to court. So, that is the concern over here, that Twitter just acts on whims and fancies. They claim that they have certain guidelines or set rules, internal rules, but they've never ever advertised those. They've never spoken about it. They've never become public about it, and they just arbitrarily block somebody.
So it's what pleases them.
That's right. Though they claim that we have done it on the directions or at the behest of certain government agencies, but they never spell out the reason or the agencies who have asked them to block the Twitter handle. So there is no clarity. There is no clarity, and even in court they are not able to spell the reasons. They simply say that it is as per the terms and agreements of signed between the user and Twitter. So it is a private dispute between the user and Twitter.
Correct.
But as far as spelling out the rules or the reasons why they block somebody, there is no answer to that.
All right, so Bhadra explaining what courts have to say about the role of Twitter and Facebook in India. Are they intermediaries? Are they publishers? Do they have accountability, and what extent of accountability? Thank you, Bhadra, for explaining that to us in Government Matters. We've started, in fact, today launched a fresh drive. It's a YouTube membership drive. You must take membership of our YouTube channel. It's just rupees 159 a month. You get many benefits, including early access to some of our very important video properties. That includes Cut the Clutter by our editor-in-chief Shekhar Gupta. So all you need to do, we'll put a link, in fact it must already be there in the description of this video, to how you can go and take membership. Just click on it and do subscribe to us. Thank you so much for watching Government Matters. Have a good weekend. We'll be back Monday.